Occasionally, I'm usually fixing and tinkering. I like to mess about with other people's cars, and there have been a few cars along the way, and a few cars we have yet to see. Some are long term, some are short term fixes. This one is just for today, and it's basically Nick, who is bringing his Focus Mark 1, who has been following me for a long time. He's asked me whether I could fit a replacement bumper that he has sourced, a rear bumper that is sourced for his Mark 1 Focus. And indeed, I said yes, because he needs a hand, and I'm all for giving a hand. And I can show you guys how it's done as well, and the little foibles that you might discover in taking the rear bumper off. And no, I know this has been done before. There have been videos going back 10 years where people have shown how to replace a Mark 1 rear bumper. But those videos were made when the cars were much younger. And when the cars are older, that's a different challenge. And we're going to see what Nick's car is about. And we're going to get really nosy. He's going to hate me today for this. Oh, and look what we have here. It's almost going to run me over. There we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely. What have we got here? Right, I thought I'd just take you around Nick's car. Now, for a start, I was a little bit confused. Nick has messaged me and told me a few details about his car previously, but I thought it was a Z-Tech, and most of you thought, yeah, it's a Z-Tech. No, it's not a Z-Tech. It's actually a gear. Well, actually, I'll show you. It's this bit here. I saw that, and I'm thinking, oh, I like these badges. I always like the gear badges. It's a really nice touch. And then I saw the wheels, and I was like, hey, this is confusing. But Nick has basically took ownership of this car 3 months ago. It was passed down to him from his mum, and the car has done 194,000 miles. And on a Sigma, that's not surprising. Although I've got to say, I was slightly surprised when he told me, because it doesn't look like a car that's done 194,000 miles. It's very honest. You know, you've got the usual sort of scabbiness along the scuttle panel, but it's all nice and dry. He's had the breather hose changed. We've got a bit of an issue with this tank though. I'll actually take you into the boot and I'll show you this. Nick bought this expansion tank off eBay. Okay, now eBay's a bit of a gamble, we all know that, but we all like to take a chance. I've bought second-hand parts before and they've turned out okay, but there's a bit of a problem with this one. If I can just show you here, can you see a little crack there? Yeah, that's useless. Unfortunately, that's the thing with these expansion tanks. They've got old, they've got to a certain age, and they just blow. And second-hand ones are a bit of a gamble with expansion tanks because the plastic just goes. Now this one, we're getting a slight hissing sound from here apparently. And can you see on the side here? Yeah, we've got this crack going along here. Unfortunately, that is the sign that the tank is going to have to be changed. You can get aftermarket ones for about £40, and I shall be giving Nick a link so that you can actually find the correct one. The one on my Mark 1, some people have thought it's a genuine one. It's not a genuine one, it's an aftermarket one, and it works perfectly fine. Now also, Nick's car has got a really nice feature that I think I'm quite jealous of, to be fair. Now this is obviously the scuttle cover, which covers the pollen filter housing on this side, the one that's causing a lot of leaks recently because we're getting an awful lot of rain. And how many posts have I seen recently where someone's carpet has been absolutely flooded? But Nick doesn't have to worry about that because the clips are broken on this side. I think one of mine's broken as well, but it's got to the point where you can just do this. Ah! How easy is that to change the filter? He just needs to lift it up and take it out. And as you can see, the water is going where it should. It's being deflected down the side and towards that side. By the way, guys, just to point out, there shouldn't be any seal on this side. Water should go into this side by the wiper motor and go down into the drain hole. Make sure your drain holes are not blocked, okay? Next time you get the hose out, aim it down this corner. And yes, the side seal, they just go, they just deteriorate. Mine haven't got any. You don't really need them. It's one of those things. And also, I've noticed actually, the wires for the heated washer jets are actually intact. Mine are actually completely broken. The fact is, the opening and closing of the bonnet over time, wires get brittle and they just break. I've had to rewire mine, as I think I've said before. But overall, it's quite honest. We don't really have a bonnet lock. Typical on a Mark 1, I'll just show you this. We've got no shaft there. No. Common thing with the boot, with the actual bonnet locks, is all the mechanism gets dirty, it gets stuck, it gets really grotty. And the next time someone goes to open the bonnet, which in normal service, when back in the day, because of the fact is Mark 1s are so reliable, people don't have to open the bonnets from 1 year to the next. In fact, I think it's only the MOT tester that opens the bonnet, and that is a really good thing. But the cars that are the least reliable have bonnets that open all the time. But on a Mark 1, obviously it's going to be opened very seldomly, and when you come to open the bonnet, you stick the key in and it's a bit stiff. So what do most people do? Yam, and it snaps the actual spindle. So the only way this bonnet will open is the usual way, with a screwdriver. But still, it's a very effective way of doing things. It is one of them things. You can buy a replacement lock, but you'll need the key to go with it, so you need a key and a lock. It might end up a bit messy, because if you've had problems with your doors, I've seen people where they've got about 4 sets of keys. One for the bonnet lock, one for the driver's door, one for the passenger door, and one for the boot. It gets messy. Having 4 keys, you never know what to start the car with. It's used and abused, and as we can see down here, there is not a sign of damp. That is exactly what you want to be watching out for with this amount of rain. And as usual, the carpet wants to come away from the actual trim. That's all right. I love these little touches that you get on the gear, and obviously you get the nice little trim on the door cards. I think this is quite a nice sort of trim. You get the same sort of black ash wood effect on the actual fascia. This radio may be original. I suspect it might not be, but and it's usual to have an FM transmitter in your 12-volt socket. That's quite popular because these are the old school radios. They don't really work that well. DAB aerials you can stick on the windscreen. Yeah, there's a few things you can do, but it's really nice and honest. And these seats, I will tell you again, are the nicest material on a Mark 1. There is a material called Bussac. It's the beige interior, that you get on the gears, and I'll tell you, it is nice and soft and subtle. It's really much more improved over your LX, ZTEC and CL materials. That just feels like some recycled pair of old person's jeans. And it shuts really nicely. Now, as you may see on the side of the car, we've had a bit of patchwork. Now, it's very common on Mark 1s like mine to have gone at the end, but what is even more common is many of them, to get it past the MOT, they've just stuck a plate on, and that's what's happened. They've stuck this, it's not nice, is it, to look at, but it's functional. At the end of the day, it keeps the car on the road. But I think I could probably do some similar amounts of welding. Obviously we've got it's completely shot at the end. I do not want to touch that because it's going to fall off. It looks like it, but I think that lip looks dodgy. I personally wouldn't put a jack on that sill, and that's a little thing you need to be aware of with Mark 1s. The lip, yeah, it's okay, it's not too bad, but yeah, we've got this dreaded arch liner, which I'm afraid it's made of this horrible material that never dries, and in this sort of weather that's going to take days to dry out, and it's the one thing I've feared with my own example. But many of them still wear their carpet liners, and I think for Nick's sake we better not look anywhere else and start prodding. Yeah, literally that. It's yeah, we've had a bit of patchwork done here as well. Yeah, don't touch that, Andrew. Stop prodding. It's not your car. The bottom of the wings look in really good condition. And someone's just spray painted the whole sill. They haven't even done it properly. Oh, jeez. I mean, if you're going to do a job, do it properly. Some of you are going to ask, actually, I'll just take you underneath to have a look at the rear suspension. Now, this is how my rear suspension looked a few years ago. So we've got we've got new springs, we've got new bottom arms. That is a massive plus point with this car. So he's had new bolts. You must have new bolts there and there. These are the ones that seize inside the bushes, okay? And once it's done, and he's obviously had new drop links at the back as well, that's all good. That is a major expense out the way. The subframe's looking crusty, but I suspect if you wire brush this back, it's going to look a lot better. A lot of them look worse than what they are. The fuel filler pipes, you need to be aware about these things. You really do. Where they go into the hose, they do tend to go a bit funny. But overall, it doesn't look too bad. It just looks a bit crusty. Anti-roll bar seems to be crusting out a little bit. It's got probably, might have the original exhaust, you know. You know what it is? That, yeah, that is the original exhaust. There's no join between the back box and the middle box. It's a one piece. That is the original exhaust. Wow. I mean, they really do go really tarnished after time, but that is absolutely cracking. That is a very rare sight, but the original exhausts were made to a very high specification. Now, if I just show you towards the front, and I'll just take it below here, hopefully the camera isn't too blurred that you can actually see. Oh, come on, camera, focus in. It just looks very dry. There's a bit of leaks from the oil filter. That's usual when you're changing the oil on these, but the subframe looks actually quite decent. So all in all, a really decent car, one that's been just used. Now the bumper, hence why we've got this big bumper in the back of the car. He's got another scuttle panel, but I think this one is also broken as well. This is a big problem with these scuttles, and these scuttle panels are like 250 quid from Ford, and I just think even with the problems they have, that's not worth it. I'd rather try and gamble on a second-hand one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's not really too much of a big deal. We've got a replacement back bumper, which is not like this one, because the colour of this car is moon dust silver, by the way. It's probably the second most popular colour on a Mark 1 Focus. Probably the most popular, actually, saying that. I'd say moon dust is probably number one. Panther black is somewhere 2 or 3. But that means that getting parts like bumpers and body panels can still be quite accessible, particularly if you want to go to the breakers. However, we've got a bit of a problem where, yeah, it's absolutely gone, and there's no point repairing that. Mark 1 bumpers are not made of ABS, as far as I'm aware. They are made of an inferior white. I can do this because it's going to come off the car. It's made of an inferior white plastic, and it just goes really brittle. Not as brittle as Mark 1 or Mark 2 Mondeo bumpers, but this is going to come off, and this is the purpose of this video today. We are going to take this bumper off, and we're going to make a quick job of it. A couple of things Nick has just pointed out to me as I shut the camera off. This window is being held up by a block of wood, potentially, so the window regulator has gone, the cable snapped. So it's not a bad job, because usually they don't go. And there's a lot of window regulators in a scrapyard car that can be used. It's not too hard. And the wiper has gone, the rear wiper. Now, if your rear wiper isn't working, just have a check at your boot loom, because it is very common for them to break where they go through into from the body into the boot. So just have a look. But this one looks fine. The wires actually look in really good condition, so just goes to show not all of them suffer from this issue. Some are better than others, but it's difficult to get this plastic grommet back over. I'll do that off camera, but it looks like the wiper is just packed up, and that can happen. Anyway, let's crack on. Right, what we've got here is, if you can see, I think that the camera light is quite poor, but we have a Torx T30 holding the back carpet liner. This really needs to be removed out the way. I'm not going to take the whole liner off, but just take the actual fixing screw out, and that will allow me to get access to the actual fixing just here where my camera is pointing, where these scratches are. That is what holds the bumper on the side, so we're just going to remove these. Oh, come on, I can't get my ratchet in there. That's why I'm using my bit with my 10mm spanner. It's quite a nice way of doing things actually in tight spaces. There we go. Right, that's on the floor. Now you can just remember. Ah, oh, Jesus! I forgot how muddy it was. Oh, see, look, guys, this is what you're holding against your car. It's disgusting. Right. Now I don't know if you can see, guys, but in there you can see a guide. So got the guide just here where my finger is. I do apologise if you can't really see. And then below, above that, you've got this little spindle with this nut on it, and that is what secures the bumper. So you see that? That's the guide below, and that is the nut securing the bumper and the reinforcer to the body. Now what happens is that gets rusty, it gets really nasty in there, and that nut that you've got to take off, it's a 10mm nut. Put lots of WD-40 on that because it will seize with the shaft, and when you yank on it you can snap it off the reinforcer, and what happens is your bumper will just be hanging off. It will be in, it won't fall off because the guide will be in, it'll be held down with all the clips. It won't fall off, but it'll just be hanging out like this, it'll stick out. The idea is that nut on that spindle is holding the bumper into the car. When you get new bumpers, by the way, you've got to make sure that there's no seized threads. I'll just show you on the bumper in the car actually. So you can see here, this is a good thread. Okay, this one, okay, this is the guide and this is the thread. Okay, so the nut will basically seize onto this shaft and then twist, and it will come out, and there is nothing to secure the bumper to the actual body. You can use a self-tapping screw if you can get a self-tapping screw into this plastic reinforcer, but this plastic reinforcer at the bottom and at the top is riveted. Okay, it's got rivets in it, and that means essentially it's difficult to drill these out and then put a new, basically I think they're aluminium rivets. So if you're getting another bumper, make sure that this is intact, otherwise it's useless as a bumper. If you're replacing your bumper, new reinforcers are required and you'll have to get it riveted. A body shop will be able to do that for you, but it's something you need to be aware about with Mark 1 bumpers. WD, straight in. You've got to get lots of penetrating fluid and then it soak into that nut and thread. It's really important. I can't state that. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really matter with this bumper because this bumper is going, okay, it's going to be thrown in the bin. But the point is, a lot of you may want to take your bumper off to put it back on again. In that case, if you snap the thread, you're in trouble. In this case, it doesn't matter if I snap the thread. Slowly but surely. Just go nice and slowly. Bit by bit, do not rush. Bit by bit. You might find it easier to take the wheel off, but I can't be bothered today. I'm just going to show you how to do this without doing that, and I can feel it. See, it's getting loose. That's what you want. Just keep doing it until the nut comes off. Well, doesn't shear off, comes off. Right, okay. So usually fixing and tinkering, I am absolutely sick and tired of things like this happening. The nut has span on the thread. The thread is actually spinning with the nut. Now what I'd recommend here is, if you want to make sure that you do not damage the reinforcer, you get some locking pliers and then you span it. You're going to have to take the wheel off to do that. You'll have to get your spanner and some locking pliers, hold the shaft and turn the nut. I'm not doing that today because I cannot be bothered. Look at this thing. Butchering somebody's car. This is not how you do it, guys, but the truth is I'm sick and tired of things like this happening. We're going to cut this off because this bumper is just going to come off. So yes, usually fixing and tinkering, doing bodges, but today it's not about salvaging this bumper, it's already gone. I've come to this side to do more bodgery. Now some of you might put a thumbs down to this because this is not the way it's done, but this bumper is absolute trash, so I don't care. But if we were keeping this bumper and putting it back on for whatever reason, I wouldn't have done that. just so you know. Now, if this starts spinning, we're just going to rip it off, and I'll cut it off and replace the nut with the thread. These are the issues on Mark 1s at this age. Get it on. No, this is completely seized and it's spinning as well. Oh well, we're gonna have to cut it off. I think so. It's just literally come off the pop rivets. Yeah, so the reinforcer has detached on the bumper because it's completely fatigued. But this plastic is it's just horrible stuff. Horrible. But you can see where the reinforcer sits on the car. Now that spindle goes there, but it is literally spinning. So I'm going to cut that off with a grinder. But basically, this is not a very good video of how to do it, but these are the problems that you're going to face with a Mark 1 Focus at this age. Most of the time, these spindles just spin. But I would say the technique is correct. You get some locking pliers, you keep going with the spanner, and you can get it off. But because this bumper's going in the bin, this is not going to be a how to do it. This is how or not to do it, but only if you've got another one. Right, so we've broken that side, we've broken that side. Now what we need to do is stop laughing. Stop laughing. We've got this man joke laughing constantly I'm doing. Right, so we've got to take all these clips out. Okay, now these clips can be a bit of a pain, but you just need to use a pick. That's what it's like. You've got to have fun with cars, you've got to have a bit of a laugh, and that's what old cars are. But you just got to pick these clips and they will just pop up. And then it will get to a point where they will lift. Sometimes they snap. I have got some replacement clips if any of these go, but you just got to be gentle with all these and just keep pulling them up. There we go. That one's actually come up on itself. There you go. The centre bit comes out and that bit will kind of either fall off the bumper or just come out with the bumper, but we'll make sure that we keep all these separately. So just go round. There's 4 at the top and there's a couple at the bottom, and I'll just show you these. We've got one here and then we've got another there. Just 2 on the bottom and that's it. Pull that one out. Got another couple here. Just keep wiggling them out actually. There we go. So we got the centres, and then we've got one more over here. Just get your fingers in, and there we go. We've got the 3 centres. Right, bottom. So there we go. These can be a bit of a pain, but they will come out. There we go. Pop, and it's out. Now just make sure you keep the centre here and this one. Go. There we go. So the bottom is now free. Now it's the mucky job. These backlights, this is going to be really mucky. All you need to do is get your hand under, and there's a tab. Just push it up and push it this way. So literally, there we go. Oh, Jesus! Every single one of them are like this. Now disconnect the wiring, disconnect the bulb just by turning. Oh, you got a swimming pool in there, buddy. It's an absolute swimming pool. This is typically usual.
Wait for it. Ah, dirty one.
Have you been weeing in this by any chance?
That's what I've been using for work, did you know?
Oh, jeez. This is just vile. That's why I bought my rags. It's absolutely horrendous. I mean, to be fair, we've got some lights with the new one. I mean, look at the bulb, man. I think I might give you some new bulbs. Actually, that's cleaned up nicely. It's just rusty water. Now, I'll just bring you in. Right, so basically, if we take... Look at the mud in there. This is where, even with the arch liner does not protect this part of the car. Well, this is a first. I've had to use WD-40 to get the bulb out. The bulb is actually seized. I'm not going to worry about that too much, but it's literally stuck in. I've tried pushing it in and twisting it. It's literally stuck in there. So I'm going to leave that as it is because we need it anyway, and the bulb still works. It's not blown or anything. I'm amazed, but that might be corroded on the inside. But I'm just going to, well, the bumper's been replaced anyway, so I'm just going to give that a bit of a clean up. And we may not even use them, to be fair. We'll use the ones that come with the bumper, just to save a bit of time, because this takes hours, and Nick hasn't got hours. In a while, I forget how mucky these cars actually are. Flipping heck. Once again, it's just absolutely sodden with mud. Just get that through. It's a bit tighter, there's less wiring with this, but just going to twist that off. And just twist it to the right. There we go, and pull. There we go. Oh, Christ. Oh, dearie me. This is a problem. The seals just go on these and they let so much water in. I'm not going to even try and see if that bulb is seized in there, because it possibly is. Right, we're not ready to take the bumper off because we have a slight issue. Nicky's going to demonstrate by going in the car and turning the fog light on and put it in reverse. Is it on? Yep, well, I wouldn't be able to tell because we've got no reverse light and no rear fog light. Okay, so these bulbs are going to have to come out. I suspect the connectors are corroded. The bulbs are not blown, but the connectors, yeah, this needs to be cleaned. Secondly, with the ignition off, if I just come in here, if I just turn it to 1, get the headlight off. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at the fuel gauge. It's all over the place. So I think we're going to have to clean a few earth points just to rule it out. It could be a bad soldered joint on the cluster. That's a common fault. But I'm going to clean the battery connections, because one thing I did notice was the battery connections were dirty again. And that's where I'd start off with this sort of problem and see if I can fix it really cheaply. We'll see. Right, so I've tried twisting the bulb again, and yeah. That's well and truly seized in there. I'm going to get a new bulb for this, but what I'm going to do is just going to disconnect it. Right, so we have one seized bulb in the bulb holder. That has got to be the original bulb. I mean, I'm not being funny. That is, I've never seen a bulb like it. I mean, look at that. It's just literally welded itself to the connector. Rubbish. Right, take 2. I've put some WD-40 in this one. It's all going well today on this Mark 1. Oh, that was easy. We've got one bulb that's come out, and we've got a bit of corrosion. Wow, look at all this rubbish. Yeah, there's a little bit of green corrosion in there, but it should be okay. What I've done is I've now cleaned the whole fitting. I've put it back on the connector. The bulb is now back in, the original bulb. I have got a brand new bulb here just in case, but let's see what happens. So if Nick goes in and puts the rear fog light on, absolutely nothing. Right, I've got a feeling that this bulb is so rusty at the bottom, I don't think it can make a difference. But if I just... Oh! Yay, it's working. That was hot. That now works. So we've now concluded that that is just... It's a dodgy bulb. But now it's all been cleaned, we're back up to square one. That side, I can't do anything about. Now I've just noticed something about this broken one. Look at the original fitting. Look at this. It's completely different. This is an aftermarket one. I've seen a few of these before, but that's why it's absolutely seized in there. These aftermarket ones are absolutely garbage. So someone has replaced this before in the past with this aftermarket one, and this hasn't lasted any longer than the original. How rubbish is that? So yeah, the shopping list adds up. The bin of shame, 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 shame. I think so. It's just literally come off the pop rivets. Yeah, so the reinforcer has detached on the bumper because it's completely fatigued. But this plastic is it's just horrible stuff. Horrible. But you can see where the reinforcer sits on the car. Now that spindle goes there, but it is literally spinning. So I'm going to cut that off with a grinder. But basically, this is not a very good video of how to do it. But these are the problems that you're going to face with a Mark 1 Focus at this age. Most of the time, these spindles just spin. But I would say the technique is correct. You get some locking pliers, you keep going with the spanner, and you can get it off. But because this bumper's going in the bin, this is not going to be a how to do it. This is how not to do it. But only if you've got another one. Right, and as some of you might point out, the reinforcer also attaches at the bottom of the bumper using 2 plastic rivets. I've broken one off this side, but what I'm intending to do here is take the bumper off in a way that we're going to twist it off. We're going to snap it off. We're just going to literally snap the bottom ends off this bumper, and then I'm going to cut the reinforcer off. But we're going to do a lot of cleaning, as you can possibly imagine behind here. It's one of the good things, you clean as you go. Right, yeah, that side, we're just going to put it off the guides and down. Oh, it's snapped. There we go. Done. That was easy. What an absolute mess.
Just like that.
Yeah. Right, so as you can see here, the rivets attached to the bumper down here. Look how it's horrible. It's the worst day ever. Look at the mud on the back of the arch liners. But it looks all quite nice around this corner. They can rot around this corner here. And this reinforcer is going to come off. We're literally just going to, I'm going to actually either drill it out or cut it out, whichever way. Might actually see if it will actually come out. Maybe not, because that is the thread. So I'm going to try and cut that off in a second. Obviously you've got the vents here, which I may look to seal today while we're here. But the crash bar is usually quite rusty, but that's okay. We've got the usual sort of disgusting dirt everywhere, but the reinforcer, the bumper support is in good condition. It's not bashed, anything like that. It looks really straight. Oh dear, my goodness me, I didn't see that. Oh dear, we have a bit of a hole. This is very unusual. I don't see them go on a Mark 1 in this area. I'm going to have to do some, wow, think about rust treating before I touch that. Oh dearie me. And on this side again, I'm just going to have to, in fact, the reinforcer, I don't think we've definitely not done this, because I saw this crack as I was actually prying away. Not on this, on the bumper, but I'm definitely that was definitely not there before.
Garage did that.
The garage did that. Oh yes, because obviously when they reversed it, obviously guys, this car had a bit of an accident, and apparently it was caused by the garage that Nick entrusted the car to, and hence why we've got all this damage here as well. Fancy that. And that's not ideal. This looks quite dry on this side, which is quite a good thing. Just open up and have a little look underneath. There is a way of doing this, but there's a tiny bit of water in there, but that's actually not unusual, as long as it's not flooding into the car. But yeah, right, I've got to get the hose out, and this bumper is rubbish. Right, I think it's fair to say before I do anything else, I'm just going to wash it down. Obviously, I've got to be careful of that, but to be honest with you, it's going to get in the way. I'll do some contact cleaner just to make sure there's no water in the connection. But I would like to hose it down. Ideally, don't hose it straight into the obviously the vents, but you know, it's one of them things. But yeah, this car needs a bit of TLC. For argument's sake, this is a non-structural really. The MOT tester won't see that, so I think it's best not to poke and prod, but it just goes to show what sort of lurks behind your bump on a Mark 1. I've got to be honest, very rarely have I seen one rot where you've actually got really big holes. That's going to be a really big hole. I am not going to touch either of them, but we're just going to give it a hose down now because it needs it. Right, I think I'll take advantage of getting these arch liners really, oh God, 20 years worth of muck in this seam. Oh, it's nasty. It's horrible. Ah, you've got to go on the back side of it. Ah, this is horrible. 20 years worth of muck. Hence why we've got all this bubbling. Oh jeez. Look at that. That is what is stuck in that seam. Look at this. This, guys, is why you must clean the arches on your Mark 1 regularly. Because otherwise, it's just absolute. Look at it. Absolutely filthy. And that stuff is sitting there just eating away. Oh God, it's like chocolate. Excuse me. Oh no. Oh God, that's bad. Right, now the problem is with Nick's car is this. That hasn't come off in my hand, it has literally snapped. The end piece which attaches to the bottom of the arch liner has just snapped away from the metal and stayed attached to the arch liner. This is kind of typical, it's not abnormal to see, but what it does mean is for today's purposes I can see behind here, and that looks pretty solid. It's just the lips going, but they go a bit funny. The bottom bit looks a bit rusty, but just allows me to get in. That's nice and solid in there. That's clean metal. That's really good. I'm not going to do it on the other side because the other side is still attached, but now I've spent the last 20 minutes doing this, and I recommend doing it this way, guys. I really do. But now we've still got pieces coming out. That is nice and clean. Look at that. Ideally you want to take them out and pressure washer them and then put them back in, but the other thing that I'm going to do now, Nick's going to probably hate me for this, is do the usual thing, and that is looking underneath. Yes, I'm afraid so. Here, do you want to move that out of the way, and I'll show people in the corner. We're going to take that lovely bumper out. That's really nice, actually, a decent second-hand one. It does a bit. It will scrub up nicely. Now I'm just going to move this out the way. Just with my hands, I don't want to get anything mucky. Now this is the corner you need to look at. Now sometimes it can be a bit firm to move, but it looks like it might be okay down here. It's starting to go in the corner there. If I come round to this side, because this is attached, I don't want to really move it out of the way, but you need to look under here, and it is starting to go, as we can see. So yeah, I suspect what we have here is some holes in the arches, as typical. That's what I would expect on this car. It's what I expect on most Mark 1s this age. But anyway, now we've cleaned it off. Oh jeez. Now I'm just gonna cut these off. Right, while I'm washing all the remnants away, that's the old bumper. Nick's discovered on the new one, we don't need to worry about having no reverse light on the way back because, oh, it comes with one. And does it come out? Just checking.
Ooh.
Oh yes, fantastic, brilliant. Well, that's half the problem sorted. So hopefully if that works, then we can stick that straight in. That'll be grand. And you've got another one over here, so you can keep that as a spare. That's really good of them to sell a complete bumper, because I know some breakers, they will remove that sort of stuff because, you know, these fittings. Has that got water in it? Let's have a look. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad actually. It's not got any of the green stuff on it, so it should be fine. Yeah, that should be perfectly fine. I'm not taking any prisoners. I've just literally snapped the whole thing off, and as you can see, it's held in like that. Now the whole stud is just free. Now I'm just going to cut that off with a grinder. Right, so I've ripped them off and yep, cut them off, and it's come straight out. Fantastic. I'm going to get some spare nut to go on the back side. It'd be there as well. Just a little bit of a clean up. Just let me get this towel. It's absolutely horrible out here. It couldn't be a worse day to do this. But it's just a case of just cleaning all around here. Just give it a nice little bit of a clean. Always what I want to do, just make sure it's nice and thorough. I like to be clean. This just needs a bit of surface treatment, but as I say, that will be a job for another day. I suspect that Nick will be visiting me about 20 million times, because that's the amount of jobs that we've got to do on this thing. But one job at a time, as I say. And look how nice and clean this carpet liner has come out. That's what you want. Let's get my tetanus jab sorted. I just want to show you these, guys. There is just no way that these would have come out. It's just absolutely, totally solidly rusted. There's just no way that that was ever going to come off without snapping. I'm afraid this is exactly why I've been unsuccessful in getting a bumper off without butchering. It's just the way things are. Anyway, it's looking a lot cleaner at the back here. There will be some future rust treatment going on there, and all this will be done at a later date, I suspect. But it's looking really tidy, and that's what we want. And we'll go on from here, and that's where you start. Now, before we put the second-hand bumper back on, I just wanted to look in here, and I tell you what, there is not much in the way of water in that one, and nor in this one. Because while you got the bumper off, I would recommend resealing these. But you know what? I don't want to disturb this, because actually I think these vents are sealing quite nicely, because there's very little water in both of them. And today it's been utterly torrential. I can't tell you how bad it is out here. But anyway, let's stick the front bumper, the new rear bumper, the second-hand rear bumper, back on the car, and it's pretty simple. All you need to do is make sure that it sits on this supporting panel, okay, because this is where your clips go in, okay, and make sure that the guide pins go through here, and then we'll basically take care of the rest. Right, so just make sure that it sits nicely. It might be a bit of a fiddle. Now these bumpers are allowed, you can flex them a little bit just to get them in place. So just make sure it covers at the bottom. There we go, it's gone over the top, and we're almost in.
Something fell off.
No, where there's just one of the clips that has actually fallen off, but that's it. I've just put mine in. That's it. There we go. Done.
Beautiful.
Done. And just make sure that it goes, the bottom of the bumper goes over where the clips go through. I'll just show you that, because that might catch you out. Okay, so we've just got, this one's gone on nicely, and this one hasn't, so you've got to bring the bumper back out and push it back over. But there you go, that's on, and yeah, that's on. Now that's what it will look like without the nut on it to hold it on. As I say, without the nuts holding the reinforcer on, the bolts that I've just cut, the bumper's not going to fall off. The bumper is actually really tight with none of these fixings on. Nick could drive this back and it won't fall off. I mean, this side is actually sitting quite nicely without any fixings at all. But what I'm going to do now is find a little 10mm nut to go on that thread on the other side and tighten it back up. So in my little bag of bolts, find one of these, and we're going to put this on the back side. Excuse me. Yeah, just put it on the spindle. Lovely, and it goes on really nicely. And I'm just going to tighten that up with my ratchet spanner, and that'll be now nice and secure. I will probably put a blob of grease on this to prevent this in the future, and I would recommend doing this. Get on the back side, and this will squeeze towards this way. This will just bring this in just a little bit. Just go gently until it goes nicely butted up. And as you can see with my finger, it's butted up really nicely there. And we're done. Then just pop the arch little liner back in. It's all nice and clean inside here. Doesn't look too bad up there actually. They can go really frilly, but this it doesn't look too bad. I'll put the torque screw back in, and we can do the same with this side. Just got this in, just make sure that the whole thing is tucked in. We have a little bit of corrosion here, and yeah, the arch lips on Mark 1s, I didn't know, but they are actually naturally bent inwards. So for some reason my driver's side one has been, well, it's been straightened. Not by my body shop, it was done that before, so that's a bit more of a curious mystery about my own car. But just tighten it up. Torx T30. Lovely. And just repeat with the other side. Now what you need to do is pop these clips back in. So just pop some of these in there. And well, we've got one there already, and you might need to do a bit of jiggling just to get the holes lined up. And they will go in, just, you know, don't be forceful, because these clips can break. I ordered about 50 of these ages ago because they're so common on these cars and they always break. So, you know, you go with the flow. Anyway, just put these two in, and then oh yes, we've got some of the others. So once I've done these four, do the other two at the bottom in exactly the same way, and that's it. Right, okay, just put this back through here. A bit of a shorter cable, and just jut this back through. There's no water in there, so we can just put that straight back on. Here's a bit of a cleaning, but there we go, clips back in. Lovely. Oh dearie me, there is a bit of a problem, and there's always a problem. That aftermarket light fitting did not use a genuine Ford connector. I didn't realise it when I took it off earlier. Some of you may have noticed this is not a standard Ford connector. Somebody has crimped in a new connector. Maybe the old one was so corroded they had to replace it, but they cut it off for an aftermarket one to go into an aftermarket. I've just never seen this before in my life, so probably a reason why the reverse light never worked. This is obviously gone the way as well. So what Nick is going to do is, well, I will do a shout out now. If any of you have know a Mark 1 for braking, could we sort of had the back wire? So we need an original connector, either to the reverse or the fog, it doesn't matter, it's the same one, and some wiring so that I can cut this here and solder it on the next time Nick comes. So if any of you have this, can you let me know in the comments, because I can sort Nick out. Okay, but for now, this car's got no reverse light, and on a Mark 1 I really don't think that's a big deal, because you can hardly see them anyway. So I'm just going to tuck that back there and shove this back in, and we'll forget about the whole thing. Right, we're just testing the rear fog out, and it's not working. Right, we'll try again. Yes! That is on. It's alright, I've had to switch the bulbs over. I think that one of the bulbs was a bit dodgy. We've had to do a bit of mix and matching today. So we've got one connector here that doesn't work. It's naff. It's kind of intermittent. So I think that's going to go in the bin. We've got a dodgy bulb which didn't work on camera just now. And this one is a little bit intermittent as well. This is the only thing with Mark 1s that you kind of have to mix and match. So we've got no reverse light because that's going to be done in the future. As I say, if you can help us out there, that'll be greatly appreciated. Great, that works. And we have a new bumper, nicely fitted around the corners, and it looks a heck of a lot better than the old one. And yeah, just stupid people from the garage. And it's looking decidedly much better, although it has been a daily exercise with the Ford. Fix and repair daily, as you can see here. Now, we're not done yet because we have a little speedo issue. Go away, get out the camera. Stupid. We have a little bit of an issue with the speedo cluster. I'm going to do the simplest thing that I recommend everybody does if you've got an issue with one of your needles just moving about all over the place. Clean the battery earth cable. Just clean it.
Big key.
Yeah, this is the normal way of opening your Mark 1 Focus.
Classic.
Absolute classic. Now, it's exactly. Just a big screwdriver in your toolbox. Now, first thing I will show you is we've got a couple of earth points down here that they look a bit green and corroded. I do recommend you clean these. There's two here, and there's another one down there. That one, I mean, we've got a lot of surface rust here. Nothing bad. They just get a bit scabby around this area where you've got like this seam that goes here. But this is a massive culprit because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that's a lot of rusty metal. You will have to put a lot of WD-40 on these, and I'm going to do so before the end of this because I think that this is a big issue. But that's really dirty. That's really dirty. We're going to take that one off and clean it, and then I'm going to take that one off and clean it. Just take the cable off. Might be a chance for the ECU to relearn its settings. Now, what I'm going to do is just lift up. You got your screwdriver, buddy? Just to lift it up. There we go. I'd recommend lifting it up like this. There we go. Now, what you need is to just make sure that it doesn't come into contact again, because otherwise it will spark. Now, all I recommend is just cleaning the inside of the actual connector, okay? This looks relatively clean as it is, but just clean it. I really would recommend this. Mainly the earth. You don't really need to clean the positive unless you really think there's a need. At the moment, there isn't a need, and to be fair, this looks really clean. Again, spark plug, battery terminal tool. Stop laughing.
Big bloody spark plug.
It is indeed. I mince my words sometimes, but then everybody, you're used to that anyway. Right, well that is just shaved just a little bit of the post off. Now I'm just going to pop this. Now be careful of screwdrivers near batteries. You don't want to be doing that because that is fatal, and you're going to blow one of the big fuses in here, and these bad boys will go on you. There we go, the central locking goes on and off as usual, and you can just reconnect. Just good practice. Right, so that is relatively clean. I might clean that in the future, but the truth is I've put some penetrating spray underneath that and I've cleaned around it. That is a good connection now. To be fair, that looks like a decent connection as well. So I don't think we've got any concerns here, and this is a relatively new battery. One thing I would say, you see all this gunk here? This is the result of people putting grease on their battery terminals, and I know for many years that it was a thing, and it was a bit of an advice to just put grease on them. That's of people that don't look after their cars. I'm not being funny. People that look after their cars Clean them and keep them dry. You must keep these dry and clean. No grease, because if you just put grease on, it will attract all the dirt in the engine bay and it will go towards the grease and it will stick to it. And then you're left with all this manky rubbish left for somebody like me to deal with. No, you don't do that. You clean your terminals, make sure they are dry and clean. End of. The list is building up with this car straight away, and Nicky's laughing because, like,
I find it funny.
that's what the problem is. The other side has started spinning with that nut, so that's another thing we've got to have to sort. But I'm not going to mess around with that because otherwise the airbox won't be tight. So that's another job for another day, because it's getting on now. We've just lubricated some of these bolts because God knows when. This mounting looks a bit tired, but we thought we'd just lubricate it just for the benefit of everybody else. But I'll just pop that airbox back on. There we go. That's as easy as it comes. But what I am going to do in preparation for the future is doing this. And if we come round to this side, because this side is definitely going to need it. There we go. Now, there's another thing that Nick has asked me to look at, is this engine mounting. Now, what often happens with these hydro mounts, these make the most difference on a Mark 1. In terms of vibration in the cabin, this is what makes the difference. So if you get an excessive vibration inside, it will usually be this. It won't be the swing one or that one. What they can do as well is the rubber underneath can sort of perish, and I can see some cracking, but overall it looks okay. But I have seen them where they can actually collapse quite a bit, but this one is relatively dry. I can't actually see any oil in the crevices here, so I'm pretty happy with that. And another one, there is another earth just here. There we go, just there, and that's what connects to the back of the engine block, which you kind of have to be aware about. It just connects here when my fingers are. This one here, okay, so that is your engine to earth connection, and that is pretty crucial, but it's not the only earth connection the actual car has, but as I say, just to bear with for future preference. But all in all, a serviceable car. When we made a start, let's see if it may have made a difference.
Absolutely not.
Oh dearie me.